the YouTubes, and right now on the Sportscaster. What's going on, everybody? Sunday slate, the main day of the XFL Week 4. Let's not get it twisted. This Sunday slate is the preferred day of XFL when I think all four of the quarterbacks that I had any interest in for the most part this week are on this slate. You had good performances from Te'amu at his price point. You had good performances from Josh Johnson getting over 300 yards at his price point. That's all fine and dandy, but the game that we all care about the most, Houston and Dallas, this slate, another game that has really appealing options for fantasy, DC and Tampa Bay, specifically at the wide receiver positions for both teams. Yeah, I think that this is a situation where we can feel pretty good about today's games, whether you're playing on the 2-game slate, whether you're playing on the 4-game all-day slate. I think there's some pretty good options that we can be heading towards today. So, with that said, I will wait for people to kind of gravitate in here right now, and then I will get on with the program. I said 10:30 I'd go live. I was planning on going on at 11, but this show on Awesemo with Josh got done a little bit earlier for the NBA this morning, only 4 games. So I'll hang out here, wait for some people to get into the chat, and then we will go from there. So the biggest thing for me right now, we're live, we're good to go. The biggest thing on this 2-game slate is yesterday I had a good amount of Wildcats defense, didn't do great with 5 fantasy points, of course. I had around the field on Trey McBride, so I feel okay there. Had no Saeed Blacknall, but nobody really did. Some Adonis Jennings, some Whitfield sprinkled in. So Adonis Jennings, 6 fantasy points at his price point. Not the worst of options, you can say. So, yeah, I think that for the most part, everything went pretty decent. I'm just pulling up right now. I see that we don't have a thumbnail for some reason, but I'm going to throw a thumbnail on this YouTube version. That's obviously going to attract people. So, yeah, I think that there's a couple of things that we can definitely get into. I'll wait for some people to hop in here, and then we can go from there, questions-wise. But, yeah, this slate, the injury news, the Vegas odds, the ones from yesterday are still up there, but those will be fine to go through. Okay, we're good on Sportscaster. Very nice. What's going on, Ace Ventura over on Sportscaster? How you doing, man? I want to make sure that the notification, there we go. Excited for the slate. So much better than yesterday's. Yeah. Today's slate is miles better than yesterday's slate. There are no doubts about that one at all. Yeah. Today's slate is the preferred slate without a doubt. Yeah, man, I don't know why the thumbnail is not going up for this video, but what are you going to do? It's all good. Yeah, so I think that today's slate is obviously the one that stands out the most. And when you're just looking at pricing, you've gotten it all season long that there's really no pricing difference at this point. It's going to be pretty much the same. What's going on, Fortune Fantasy? How you doing, man? So the only downside for today's slate is the prize pools, right? The prize pools have shrunk overall. So on the 2-game slates, they're going to shrink a little bit more. $25K to first on DraftKings in a $9,800 field. And then you have the more preferred tournament for me, the smaller field event, only $5K to first. Like I like those prize pools, 10, 20K to first like we've gotten the past couple of weeks. The 222, just a 5K to first, only 100 people in it. So, of course, the odds of actually winning that compared to the 10,000 one are a lot better. For a fifth of the prize pool to first, you're getting a much less field. You have to pay more as a trade-off. So, the overall contests, they're just not that great today. I think the 222 is fine. And then, depending on how many lineups you want to put into the $12 25K. But for me, I'm just really more so sweating the 150 that I have in the 50K to first 4-game slate still. So I'm okay there. I see people filtering in now, so that's good. Get the questions in for sure, and I will be sure to address them. Still pretty salty that the thumbnail did not go up on this one, but it's all good. I see that, yeah, so people are filtering now. We got about 35. What's up, everybody? Hopefully your Sunday morning is going to a good start. Be on here for about 30 minutes or so just for this smaller slate. I'm banking on this slate with 3, 1, and 2, 2 lineups. Yeah, I think that's fine. What's up, Jimmy Touchdown? Yeah, so this slate's where all my action's in. I had a good amount of LA Wildcats defense. They were about a quarter to a third of my overall ownership. 5 points is not great for them by any means. I had about the same as the field on Trey McBride. On GPPs, did not play him in any of my single entry stuff, but that's okay. He is still in lineups that are live without a doubt going into today. But the far majority of my 4-game slate lineups feature the Dallas running backs, feature the wide receivers from Houston and Dallas and really all these teams. I think these 4 teams have the most appealing wide receiver options in the entire league, and they're playing on this slate today. So my 4 favorite quarterbacks on the 4-game slate were all today. So yeah, it's a slate that majority of my player minutes remaining and quarters and all that. I'm like dead last. Some of my lineups have 5 fantasy points because all I had was the LA Wildcats. So yesterday was a dud. I fell asleep. yeah, I didn't really watch much of the games. I mean, I'm tracking them throughout the day, but on the weekends, once the games lock, I'll watch them. I watch all the 30-minute replays of the games where you see every single play. You just get to cut out the commercials, the halftimes, the time in between snaps. So it condenses down to like 30 minutes. I watch those all after the fact, so still get to see everything that happened. But, weekends, afternoon, time to spend with the girlfriend, do some things like that. Is it bad if my whole slate basically is all today for the whole weekend? No, that's how mine is too. I think 85% of my action is literally tied up into the 2 games today compared to yesterday. I mean, what did you miss out on yesterday? At his price point, Pearson L wasn't really needed, right? So you missed nothing in the St. Louis game. Just pulling up some of the results from yesterday, you really missed nothing in that St. Louis game at all. The running backs didn't do anything. I mean, you had a game where Jordan Teamo got going on the ground again. 16 rush attempts for a quarterback they slated him at. So you missed nothing in St. Louis. I preferred the Dallas running backs all week, and that's who I ended up having. In the passing game for St. Louis, you had Pearson L. He did fine. He had like 18 fantasy points, but he was priced for it, so you didn't need him. On the Seattle side, you clearly didn't need anything with BJ Daniels coming in and just nobody doing a goddamn thing in that offense, either in the backfield or wherever you really had them at. BJ Daniels, the only player who did anything decent getting in on the ground, but nobody owned him. So the Seattle-St. Louis game, no, nothing at all you really needed in that one. The LA game, you could have had Trey McBride. That was it. There's really not much more you were missing out on. You can tell me Jordan Smallwood if you want the 12.5 fantasy points, that's okay. So, yeah, there's some wide receiver performances. Obviously, Trey McBride dropping 30 fantasy points or so. Had about the field with him, but nothing else you really missed out on. The running backs in both of those games weren't great. Darius Victor, though, moving forward, he's been the workhorse for the 2 weeks he's been healthy. He got 18 carries in this game to the 8 by Tim Cook. Stockton was not active, so that's something to watch moving forward. He also had 1 target, but McCall McKay finding the end zone, just 12 yards, nothing really of relevance there. Pearson had 8 fantasy points. So, yeah, you had Trey McBride happen yesterday, and that was literally it. So, St. Louis Battlehawks defense, I guess. But, yeah, so as long as you're sitting pretty, if you didn't have Trey McBride, you're probably not winning contests. You're definitely not winning contests today unless you're 4 or 3 flex players going for 30-plus apiece and you don't need him. But, yeah, as long as you had Trey McBride, you're definitely in the running for first places today. If you didn't have him, well, you're still fine in terms of cashing, finishing high, and winning cash games because he was only like 20% owned around most of the industry anyways. Yeah, Victor did look good. The glasses magnify on your eyebrows, do they? Yeah, I see that there's usually a glare. These aren't for vision. These are for like, people tell me that the blue light stuff doesn't work, but trust me, when I look at a screen for a while, been up since like 5 doing projections for NBA and prepping some other stuff, I start to get like a little foggy feeling in my head as if like I'm concussed again or something. No showdown for the Lakers-Pelicans. Yeah, NBA showdown is not something I want to be doing. I went against your word, Sal, and took Johnson at QB for the 4-game slate. 25 fantasy points was a blessing, I think. Yeah, he ended up getting hot later on. The first quarter and a half, he was pretty dreadful. McBride really opened it up for him. Yeah, Johnson, 25 fantasy points. That's what you want out of him. I don't think it buries you if you don't have him. I don't think it's terrible if you do. 25 is like a neutral point at that point. Because if you go out today and you only have Landry Jones scoring 22 and Phil Walker only scores 26, obviously Josh Johnson is the guy that you want. But the reasons that you play those other guys is there's an upside for 30 out of both Landry and Walker today. And on a 4-game slate, if Walker goes for 33, you can still win with Johnson depending on what you do with the rest of your weapons and how much they score. But I think 25 is just a neutral outcome. I think it's fine for everybody. FanDuel 10K to first monster, 2-entry max is great. Is that today, Ducey, for Sunday? Yeah, I played FanDuel weeks 1 and week 2. I didn't really play much FanDuel last week for XFL, mainly just because of their 4-game slate not being there. But maybe I should start looking more into that for Saturday slates. I haven't really played much. I focused on the 4-game. But, yeah, I'm seeing some of their contests now. I'm pulling it up. Maybe I'll get into some stuff over here right now. 10K Sunday Bomb, 2K to first, Sunday XFL Monster. Wow, that's actually really good. 333 entry. 10K to first, only 67 people. You get the 2 max. I like that a lot, actually. Thanks for letting me know about that. I think I'm going to enter that. So the 10K to first, 333, only 67 people in it. Yeah, there's only 20 spots left, but I think I'm going to enter that right now, actually. Thanks for letting me know. Hopefully by the time I end the show around 11, there's still openings in there. Maybe I'll do it now while we're on this stream. Try and get some of this in there. I usually, whenever I play on FanDuel, like week 1, I had a pretty good day on FanDuel. I usually just immediately, I don't know why, I don't know what it is about FanDuel. I do the same thing with DraftKings, just not wanting to leave a lot of money in there because who knows what happens one day. I mean, these sites are pretty secure, but I'd rather just house the money in PayPal if it doesn't cost me anything. If I'm going to get taxed anyways, I'm not worried about the deposit or the withdrawal amounts. What's up, Marley? Tompkins, Nagel, or Holly? I know the best pick, but I think this question wins me $50K. Yeah, so the best pick there is Tompkins, but I think that's what you think as well, just for like a cash purpose. But it depends on the rest of your lineup. I think the best play overall there, projection-wise for me, is Tompkins, highest upside-wise. But if you're looking for somebody with the most opportunity, it might be Nagel. Nagel can see 6 to 8 targets today. Tompkins might be hovering around 5 or so. I think Holly's the worst option, but maybe that just means he's the best, right? Maybe that just means that he's the best. Getting a text from my mother. My mom is watching right now. My mother and my grandma are watching right now. What's going on, Mom? What's going on, Grandma? A beautiful picture just got texted to me. I'm going to save that. That's a good pick. What's going on, Mama Vetri? Come on, guys. Like the video. Sal's been one of the best in the biz, says John G. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, hit the like, hit the subscriber. Hey, I've been saying it for like a month now. We're getting to 20,000 subscribers, but now we're in the 400s away. So once that thing starts getting really close, I might put out a Twitter alert once we're like 100 away. But yeah, hit that subscribe button. Tell your mother, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, whoever you got to tell. Trey McBride dropped 29. Yeah, he did. He went bonkers. Are we seeing the last of the XFL here soon? What do you mean? On this channel? No. Dan, clarify what you mean by that. If you mean but for the league itself, no way. The league itself is thriving would be a hard word, but it's outperforming expectations from an attendance and a viewer standpoint in terms of their projections. And they're in the whole 5 years in this. This is a 5-year plan. Vince McMahon has a debt plan of 5 years to get out of it, like most businesses that have overhead and have to pay employees and players and stadiums and electric bills and all this. So, I don't think we're anywhere near seeing the end of the XFL. I think without a doubt the XFL is returning for at least a season 2. Will be interesting to see if more cities take on teams and how they want to distribute the costs there. Maybe just the overall interest, more advertisers, all that helps. I have Smallwood naked on a lineup in the 50K to first. What defense is the best to pair today, you think, if that is not Patron? Yeah, what's going on, Marley? So Patreon, today's March 1st. So if you want to sign up for Patreon, you don't got to worry about, so Patreon charges you when you pay up front and on the 1st of each month. Don't worry, I prorate people as long as you reach out. But yeah, it's March 1st. You don't got to worry about any of that. NBA projections will be up in like an hour. The tiers, you can just reference those for today. You could ask me any questions if you want on those as well. But yeah, definitely sign up for Patreon, man, and whoever else. But yeah, defenses today, I think that stand out. I think the Houston Roughnecks stand out. It's a high total game. Dallas is projected for a lot of points, but throughout his career, you saw it last week, Landry Jones is an interception machine. He threw 2 last week. That's all he did in college was throw interceptions. Well, that's not all he did, but one of the main features of why he dropped and is now not in the NFL, interception machine. So, yeah, I mean, out of the teams that you're going to be seeing playing today, that would be the defense that I like the most is the Houston Roughnecks. But you can take shots. Like, I have no issues going all the way down to Dallas as a defense. They're not ideal, but there's going to be 35 to 40 pass attempts against them. So it's not the worst case scenario if you want to go all the way down and just play Dallas. I'm just going to delete some of these teams from yesterday. So yeah, I think that Houston stands out as a really good defensive option today. Probably my favorite defensive option. Alrighty. Just looking over some things here. Very good, very good. Alrighty. Alright, cool. I'm going to get into that 333 on FanDuel. Digging the glasses out. Thank you. Yeah, unless it's placebo, I actually do think they help. People tell me that they don't help when I sometimes wear them on stream, but I at least think they help with the ring light, the 2 lights in front of me, and the 2 screens in front of me. McBride, only thing you needed from yesterday. I agree. If you had Jordan Smallwood or you somehow had Saeed Blacknall, that helps too. The glasses magnify your eyebrows. Victor looked good. Yep. Daniels has to start next week. Yeah, he looks like a good mobile quarterback. Huh. Travis Timmons, you whiffed on a lot yesterday, starting to doubt your advice, and you want fans to pay. I'm not sure what I whiffed on. I have 85% of my action in today's game. So Trey McBride, I had him as a tier 2 option, a grade A in an A-graded GPP option. What else happened yesterday? Travis coming in on his Sunday, trying to knock me off my Sunday best. Ain't happening, buddy. Let's see. Johnson at QB was a play if you ask me. 25 points. I mean, you expect Walker to get, 30 points roughly? Yeah, somewhere around, well, not projecting that. But yeah, I mean, you also were expecting Johnson to come in and not get 25. So advice was good. What are you talking about? Are we looking for 3x or 4x value? It's hard to put a number on that. In the NFL, I don't look for 5xing or anything like that. NBA and WNBA are the only spots I'll really look for multiplier value. I think it's a trap to look for that type of stuff in the NFL. Larry Rose really effed me yesterday. Yeah, you should not have played Larry Rose yesterday. He was not even in play once Elijah Hood was deemed active. I took him out of the cash game tiers. I took him out of the projections. I took him out, or the rankings. Yeah, once Elijah Hood was active, Larry Rose was not an option for me. This Travis guy is just a troll. Everybody's giving Grandma Millie and my mom some love. Yeah, but do we want 3x or 4x value? Really not much. Sal, do you like Mobley today? Yeah, I think he's very much in play. Look, Mobley is the one who I think has the most upside out of all those 3K receivers, including yesterday, like the Adonis Jennings, the Crockett's, even including like Saeed Blacknell going into yesterday, barring any results. I still think that Mobley has the greatest upside of all those guys. Just reserving this 333 contest now. There's still 18 spots, but reserve without lineup. Reserve, yes. Wow. Entry reserved. Beautiful. Whew. Sammy Coates question mark. Yeah, he's getting a ton of deep targets, so GPP only. He's in play. I don't really prefer him too much, but he's definitely in play, getting a ton of targets. Do you utilize late swap quite a bit? I've been trying to optimize all my McBride lineups. Yes, you should definitely utilize late swap. You should utilize late swap without a doubt. Yeah, if you have McBride lineups, and you should be looking the best opportunity now that you have a 20% guy who just somewhat broke the slate for the 4-game slate, you should go ahead and try and build an optimal lineup now. It doesn't mean play all the chalk and just try and fit in value plays like as if it's cash, but if you had like a Sam Mobley going today, maybe not get off of him if it ruins your whole lineup, but you don't need to now take a chance on one of those flyer guys now that one of your relatively lower-owned guys goes off. I mean, McBride was still like the second highest-owned player on yesterday's slate. Will come in as like a top 10 owned play, maybe number 6 overall, but you don't have to optimize it too much. If yesterday Adonis Jennings or Whitfield, one of the lower-owned cheap guys, end up going for, and Jennings was somewhat owned, but end up going for 20, then you start optimizing like crazy. McBride going off, yeah, try and tweak it a little bit, but you probably already have the lineup that you need since he was somewhat expensive. Did you jump into the 333 XFL Monster on FanDuel, Sal? Yeah, I'm about to reserve an entry. I see that I'm watching it. There's like 15 spots left. I'll be playing it either way, but yeah, I'm watching it. There's 17 spots left right now. Yeah, I'm gonna get in there. Who's your favorite quarterback today? Probably it's between Phillip Walker and Landry Jones. That's not spoiling anything for anybody, but probably Walker if you can afford him, right? That's the thing, though. For Walker at this point, it's tough wherever you're looking. Like FanDuel, he's $5 more expensive than Landry Jones. It starts to get more expensive, obviously, on DraftKings, where he's $2,000 plus. So if you can afford it, I like it a lot. The issue is that Cam Phillips is wildly expensive on FanDuel and DraftKings as well. So I prefer Phillips before getting to his quarterback, but I like both of them a lot. Did have Larry Rose yesterday. F me up for cashing Saturday main slate. Yeah. Not the type of play that you wanted to end up getting to once Elijah Hood was in. And like even barring the results, even seeing that like Elijah Hood obviously only ends up having 1 carry overall, it's just the fact that they end up then having 3 running backs active and ready to take snaps. Like Larry Rose was he's the pass catching back of them all, if anything. He wasn't used like that yesterday. But you just see a backfield where it's Juwan Harris and Larry Rose splitting 5 carries apiece. It's Elijah Hood in a game where New York's run defense finally actually came up, something that was touted throughout the preseason. So, yeah, I mean, it was just a game where they didn't run the ball at all. They had to pass, especially getting behind early. So, yeah, Larry Rose, once Elijah Hood was healthy, I got away from with the theory that you have 3 running backs healthy now, and all 3 of them should be seeing. And it just ended up being right without being 100% right. It ended up being right despite the theory. They just didn't run the ball. Signed up last night, was digging in a little. Are the sheets you have show on here on Patreon page? The sheets, yeah, the sheets are. So the sheets are attached to over on Patreon from yesterday's Closing Thoughts podcast, the Patreon specific podcast. These sheets that you're seeing right here, even these injury sheets, they will be on the they will be attached. They're called the XFL data sheets attached to the post on XFL Week 4 Closing Thoughts podcast. Yes. And then also, now that you're a patron, you do get access to XFL snap counts is for XFL, and if you're in All Sports or Hall of Fame. XFL snap counts, targets, and touches, those go out usually on Monday. I finish them all up tomorrow morning, throw those sheets up there as well, and then the podcast comes out Tuesday to recap the previous week, let you know all the news and notes, 20 to 30 minutes you need to know from the previous week, injuries, everything that pretty much happened that was meaningful, and some things that look like a fluke. Harris had more carries than Hood. I'm not too sure what you're saying there. I don't think anybody ever said that Harris wasn't going to have more carries than Hood. Harris had 5, Hood had 1, Larry Rose had 5. You can coach the team. You can make Hood have more if you would like. Vipers upset today. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. Sal, when you choose to play a GPP, wouldn't you choose to enter the same lineup in cash, or would you make a separate cash lineup? Wouldn't you expect a GPP lineup to beat a cash, so why make 2, right? No, if I'm making a cash lineup, it's going to be different than a GPP. In cash lineups, you only have to beat 50% of the field. I don't consider double ups cash. I know people do, but you only have to beat 50% of the field in head-to-heads and 50-50s. In a GPP lineup, if you want to win the whole thing, you got to beat 99.9% of the field. If you want to cash, you got to beat 80% of the field. So you have to get a little bit more risky. You have to take on some more upside, which takes on more downside. So in cash, you don't have to do that. You just don't have to shoot for the upside. If you're playing GPP lineups in cash in the long run, you're going to be taking way too many risks. So when people aren't, you're going to end up losing. So you should be trying to make different lineups. Now, on sports like WNBA, even NBA at this point, I mean, NBA is now a lot of an ownership game, but WNBA, you can play your cash lineups, but they're starting to get figured out. So XFL, like week 1, you could have played your cash lineup in GPPs, yes. Week 2, yes. 3, sort of maybe. This week, not really. Tolliver or Horn, I really like Tolliver. I think both are in play, though. Tolliver and Horn are both in the tiers. They're both in the rankings, but Tolliver ahead of them. Sal, I only ended up getting 1 point from my defense as all of my players were from today's game. Should I adjust my lineups or in any way or just run with what I have? Not sure how to make any upside. If you only got 1 point from your defense yesterday and your goal is to win the tournament, there's a good chance it doesn't happen. So I think that you're optimizing now for like a higher finish, or you try and take it so that you just at least cash. If you want to just try and take it for a higher finish, but the downside is you fall flat on your face, yeah, leave some salary on the table, play a couple of other guys who might not be risks, but they're good players. You're just leaving money on the table. If you want to at least give yourself a chance to cash and maybe a little bit more, then I would just leave it how it is. But yeah, 1 point from your defense in the XFL, you're probably not going to win a tournament. Last week, Drew Dinkmeyer got -4 points from his defense. It cost him $100,000. He was in first place. He lost by 2. He had -4 from his defense. If the defender's defense would have got 0 points last week, he would have won $100,000. They got -4. That is just brutal. You always put your cash lineup into a GPP. Never know when your cash lineup goes off. You never know when your cash lineup goes off, but I personally don't put my cash lineups into GPPs. I mean, if you're putting it into like a $6 GPP for $100,000 the first, sure, I think that's fine. But at least the way that I build my cash lineups, they have upside, but I just know that they're going to have so much ownership on them in a GPP that they're not going to win anything. They're not going to win anything. And if they do bink first place, it's going to be with like 15, 20 other people. And I usually don't do it. Sally, you're the GOAT. Thanks, man. I had a bunch of Whitfield. That drop TD killed my soul, and then the announcer calling Whitfield TD. Yeah, I heard about that. So in the 150 max, I ended up splitting my exposures to get the most out of like those cheapies in the 3K range. I had no Blacknall. He was like 2% owned, 1% owned. I had the most Mobley. I have some Crockett, Whitfield, and Adonis Jennings are all kind of like sprinkled in between 8 and 10%. Mobley, I have it the most in the cheap range. Yeah, I should make this lineup over here actually on FanDuel. I'm thinking Sammy is part-time wide receiver share with Mobley. That's what you've seen the last 2 weeks. Last week Mobley ran ahead of Sammy actually, but yeah, that's what you've seen the last 2 weeks. Trey McBride, yeah. He look. I love Trey McBride. I was playing him in preseason NFL, and then once I saw he was in the XFL, I loved it. I was sad that he was hurt. If you go back and watch my Week 1 XFL video before the news came out that he was hurt, he was one of my yeses, like one of my favorite 3 or 4 plays in the slate. This kid has a ton of talent. Like, this isn't a surprise that Trey McBride is doing any of this. He was a top 2 draft pick in the XFL draft, and then he was traded for Rashad Ross, which people know the caliber of Rashad Ross for this type of a league. Coates is going to ball today. No way I would play Mobley over Coates. Yeah, I think both are in play. It depends on what your lineup is. The salary is a little bit different, but I think both are in play. Antone, without a doubt. Deep ball upside for Coates. It's higher risk, probably higher upside. Mobley is also seeing deep targets too, but nowhere near as much. What's going on, Gilmore? How you doing? Do you have projected ownership on Ross? I do. Not for the 2-game slate, though. Not for the 2-game slate. WNBA and XFL are still tough to analyze. Trolls will complain, but don't want to make their own lineups and do their own research. Huh. Yeah, I'd probably do about 30 hours of research on the XFL a week at this point. So somebody who watches my 30-minute video and then has any sort of criticism, I'm open to listen to constructive criticism, like, hey, talk louder into the mic, whatever else. But when it's, oh, you didn't coach the team and give Elijah Hood 3 more carries, so he still would have not been playable, like you said, yeah, I'm not going to listen to those. Tolliver or Nagel? I have Jones. Tolliver, I think, for me. Why don't you consider double-ups cash games? Just curious. I think they're more variant than what I would want from cash. Like, the whole idea of cash games is that's where you diversify a good amount of your money so that you actually don't lose 100% of your income if you have a bad, or your bankroll that week if you have a bad GPP week. Double-ups are not 50% of the field winning. If double-ups are, in my opinion, if they're single-entry double-ups, I'll consider those cash games. But if you're playing in double-ups that people have 10 entries in and you have 1 and half the field doesn't win, you're playing in a GPP, in my opinion. If there's single-entry double-ups, I will agree with that. If you are a skilled player and everybody only has 1 lineup in there, you can win enough in the long run for it to be considered a cash game. But I personally wouldn't be playing double-ups that have no single entries to them. I just don't want to be playing in fields where people are entering 10 lineups into a double-up, and I then have to be forced to enter 10 lineups into a double-up where half the field doesn't get paid, and that's supposed to be my conservative play. What does GPP mean? Yeah, no problem, Wallace. It means guaranteed prize pool. So if there's 100 players that are in the contest or allowed to be in the contest and only 90 play in it, the other 10, the contest will still play. The other 10 people, they're not going to be in it, but the site like DraftKings, FanDuel, Fantasy Draft, Superdraft, they have to pay those extra entries. So there's more money in the prize pool, the same amount, more per contestant though, so it's called overlay. Is there anywhere to get XFL ownership? Awesemo is doing a beta ownership run. At least that's what they're actually calling it on their site. So that's what I'm using right now. Just getting some messages right now from people. What 2 teams would you stack? I mean, Dallas and Houston is just the gimme answer, right? That's sort of the gimme answer. I don't know if that's going to help you. But Dallas and Houston, there's just so many good plays in this slate. Like the 2-game slate, it's just so many good players. The wide receivers on these 4 teams are just incredible in terms of opportunity at their price point. All right, cool. So there's that. Let's pull this up here. Whew. Yeah, so for the people asking about DeAndre Thompkins, he's a better play on DraftKings if you haven't looked at comparison sites. I mean, he's $17 today on FanDuel. Like, he's more expensive than all of his teammates, than Dan Williams, which maybe he should be more expensive than Dan Williams, but he's way more expensive than Eli Rogers, right? So not as much of a play for me over there than he will be on a site like DraftKings, where he's a lot cheaper, PPR point per reception upside as well. So not really worth, in my opinion, paying all the way up. How many people do we got in here? Somebody know? Is anybody refreshed? I've lost $5,000 because of a kneel down the 1-yard line and thought it was the end of the world. Wow, $5,000 from the kneel down on the 1-yard line. Was that XFL? Butler or Dunbar? I like Dunbar. NASCAR in Fontana, California. Say, yeah, if you're a NASCAR fan, go get it. Go get it today. Butler will be lower owned guy out of the Dallas backs. I agree. Yeah, Butler is on the 2-game slate. Butler on the 4-game slate, not in play. On the 2-game slate, still prefer both Dallas running backs, but he's at least lower on play. Sal, your video has been lagging bad for me. I'm not sure why. I got fine. Everything's been coming through fine on my end. I got green signals everywhere. Might be on your end. I'm not sure. Any interest in Abdullah this week for the savings? No, I'd actually rather play Brissett over Abdullah. obviously in hindsight. But I don't want to play either of them, but I'd rather play Brissett ahead of Abdullah. Abdullah really got garbage time run last week. Dunbar or Artis Payne, why not both? I like Dunbar. Tompkins bounce back this week. On DraftKings, he looks more appealing to me, yeah. Been watching you for over a year. You work your ass off, Sal. Thank you. Only constructive criticism is I need you to enunciate more. Enunciate more, so you need me to talk slower, right? Yeah, I'm an Italian from New York. If my mom's still watching this, I get it from her. And the Brooklyn quick talking, throwing the Italian nature of it, and just trying to like think about 20 things at one time, and my brain is just spitting out words. But yeah, my biggest feedback on YouTube is, can you talk slower or something? And I'm just like, man, trust me, I'm trying. And I do on the Ultimo shows. Like, I actually think about talking slower. But it's easy when I'm talking to somebody else. I can talk a little bit more normal as opposed to talking to a screen. Who would you stack, Houston with Dallas? With Houston, Dallas or DC? I mean, it's interesting to ask who would I stack. Like, how many players are you playing? Like, if you're playing 3 guys from the Houston side, you're really not stacking the other side. I would run it back with Dallas. That's where you're going to get your best statistical correlation. Don't be afraid to fade Phillips and Parham. On the 2-game slate, I would be very afraid to fade Phillips and Parham just because I don't know where you're going with your salary. But on the 4-game slate, there's other wide receiver options. You had McBride yesterday. I mean, you have some other guys. I'm a little bit hesitant to want to fade both of them. I would be afraid to do that, personally. Thanks on your insight on Trey McBride. Trey McBride helped a lot last night. Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. Yeah, Trey McBride was an A GPP option, so we'll take it. What are your thoughts on Jaquez Patrick? Feel like he has been contrarian. Yeah, he's been contrarian. I have him for 50% of the snaps, somewhere between 8 and 12 touches. I have him at 10 currently right now. I think that's okay, but he ranks out as my 4th favorite back in this slate, so probably higher than some other people. Cornelius should start. I don't see Murray getting much playing time unless Cornelius struggles. It would be like when they brought Flowers into the mix. Cornelius is starting, isn't he? Dark Duck, unless I'm wrong. The reports that I saw earlier in the week were that it was Aaron Murray, but then later in the week they said that Cornelius will continue to be the starter. You are lagging a little, my dude. Interesting. I'm not sure why. It might be because I have something up on my phone that's also streaming. I don't know if everybody else is having lagging issues. I have it on green bars all on my end. I'm not sure what I can change there, but I'll look into it. The top Wi-Fi letting me down right now. Uh-oh. Yeah, so I really don't know where I stand in these GPPs. Like, about a quarter of my lineups have McBride, so those ones are fine. The higher stake stuff only had like 15% McBride, so those are surely not dead. Probably not winning anything, but surely not dead in those single entry type things. But yeah, it's not lagging for me. You don't need to talk slower. I love you and Spags together. You guys can get through a 13-game NBA slate in no time. Yeah, man, that's what it is. Did you say the sheet you were showing on screen is available on Patreon? Yeah. This sheet's available over there, and then all the positional sheets are available over there. And then also my ranking sheet is available over there as well. Now that the 4-game slate has started, this is the ranking sheet. This is just what the ranking sheet is. It's every single player that I think's in play. This week I ended up ranking like 50 or something like that. But yeah. That is the ranking sheet. And then tiers are on there as well. Doesn't seem like Cam Phillips will keep this level of play up this week, but I guess anything's possible. I said the same thing last week. I played him, thankfully. But yeah, look, I don't think Cam Phillips is going to continue to have 150 yards and 2 to 3 touchdown games. I don't even know if I don't think he'll score a touchdown every single week. And it's interesting. So, like on the 2-game slate, yeah, it's scary to fade Cam Phillips. But if you fade him and he doesn't do well, it's probably Mobley, Sammy Coates, those guys that will be doing well on the outside. So, yeah, I don't think he's 100%. I don't think he's 100% lock on the 4-game slate. Like I thought he was week 2. Like I thought he was close to last week. But he's pretty damn close to it. Like on the 2-game slate, you just don't have other options. You have Donald Parham, sure. He's also only $3 less on FanDuel, so it's really hard to want to try and get away from that. But then your other options on FanDuel are like what? Rashad Ross, Sammy Coates, you're taking shots on deeper guys, and then you just have a ton of money left, so why not play the consistent guy? If I play Phillips, do I need to stack him with Walker? It's ideal, but the answer is no. But you should be correlating your quarterback with at least one pass catcher. Should Marquise Williams be a play? Marquise Williams? I mean, Marquise Williams should have been a play probably. I thought you said it. I thought I read that at first as like Marquise Williams or whatever on New York. But no, I don't think he should be a play. Unless I missed something. I saw that DC signed a wide receiver. They dropped Tyler Polka. But he probably is not going to play today. Marquise Williams should not be a play. No, I don't even think he's touched the ball this year. Talk slower? Question mark, ... No. $5 and under best plays on FanDuel in the single game slates today. I don't have the single game slates up, my man. I'm not really sure. If you give me some options, I'll let you know. If you give me some options, Russell, but I only have the 2-game slate and the 4-game slate up right now. With the pricing much tighter, fading Parm and Phillips can work for pricing is much more restrictive. Yeah, you just got to leave money on the 4-game slate. You got to leave a lot of money on the slate, in my opinion, if you're going to fade both Phillips and Parm. Since Bruce is out, there's just a lot of money to go around. It's just tough to really want to fade Phillips and Parm now, especially when McBride goes for 29. Because if one of Parm or Phillips goes for 15 fantasy points today, which is, I don't know, what, a 100-yard game or just 6 catches for 80 yards or so, like one of them is going to be needed probably by the end of the day today. Just because Spruce went off at a relatively cheap price point. You had Josh Johnson and Tayamu have fine games at their price points, so you probably don't really – it doesn't matter as much on the 4-game slate now about the salaries of those wide receivers as long as they can produce somewhat decent games. Any running backs you're looking at besides Dunbar and Cameron and Payne, they're my favorite running backs on the 2-game slate and overall at this point. I mean, Butler on the 2-game slate is going to be more appealing now. He'll just be lower owned than those guys, but those guys stand out. Their roles are just incredible. They're running backs and wide receivers all at the same time. You don't get a lot of those, and both of the 2 best running back roles in the entire XFL are on the same team, so it's just hard to get away from both of them. All the touchdown equity is in a small group of players so far. Yeah, it is, and it's a real thing when there's quarterbacks who are not as experienced. They come into the league and have a guy they have a connection with. It's pretty clear with Landry Jones and Donald Parham from the first game, and then you saw it in the second game. It's been damn clear with Cam Phillips, and I would argue that Eli Rogers is that guy right now for Cardell Jones. So although there haven't been touchdowns as much for the DC receivers, yeah, the guys on this slate in Phillips, Parham, Rogers, they seem like the guys that their quarterbacks are really going towards. Tampa Bay is the one that's a little bit more distributed, at least, which is good to see, of course. FanDuel did a lot better job of pricing the guys this week, in my opinion. They made it interesting. They made it more difficult to choose between even the cheaper guys. Like on FanDuel, you have Sammy Coates at $12 and Sam Mobley at $13, whereas on DraftKings, that's like a $3,000 difference or somewhere close to there. So yeah, Sammy Coates is like a much better play for me on FanDuel. Is your interest in Tolliver mainly the price point? I mean, it's the price point. He leads the entire XFL in routes run. Tampa Bay is running a ton of plays, so you get him at a cheap price for the highest usage wide receiver in the entire league right now in terms of routes run. So, yeah, his quarterback play is nowhere near as good as the other guys on the slate today, but he's just running a ton of routes. Is it smarter to stack receivers that have more air yards with their QB, or is it to stack slot receivers with their QB too? I don't think there's one option that's smarter than the other. If you're talking stacking, you're talking about GPPs. You don't have to stack in cash games. So obviously the air yards guys have your bigger upside, but then you'll lose more. The slot guys are more security, but their upside is not as much there. I think if you mix them in, you're fine there. I don't think that you have to take a clear-cut way. Pass catching backs from Tampa Bay playing from behind. Think one is a good play. If so, which one, Smith or Patrick? I would say that, so on DraftKings, you're getting a nice discount on Patrick, but I think they're both in play. FanDuel, I'll just take Smith. They're so close in price. They're like a $2 difference. So overall, Smith, but I have more interest on Patrick on DraftKings than I will have on him on FanDuel. Let's try and build out a little bit of a lineup, say, here, huh? And also, the price points on these guys at the running back position on FanDuel is a little bit different because of just the nature of the scoring of the slates. So I'm just going to get some players into these lineups quickly just to have a dummy lineup in here in case something just breaks. I do like that these 2-game slates don't make you play a defense on FanDuel. I actually like that a lot because, yeah, the defense that gets 7 points and the defense that gets 9 because they get an extra sack in the game is the difference between winning the 10K to first this week and not, right? That's just kind of annoying. Should I late swap Walker for a cheaper quarterback to pay up for Phillips or Parm? On the 4-game slate, Yeah, I mean, so Jake, do you have Trey McBride already? I think that's an interesting move. I don't think there's a bad decision on that one, so that's probably not going to help you as much. But like, if you have McBride right now with Walker, and say, I don't know, you're going to Sammy Coates or somebody, that's not a terrible GPP lineup. But you already kind of